Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of DMP for That's My Podcast. Today, we're going to get kind of deep, okay? But I think that's like the whole, I feel like that's like the whole reason why I wanted to start this podcast was because I wanted to let others into my life and kind of talk about everything that I've done wrong, everything that I feel like I've done right, and just the journey in general, and bring other people along that journey, and also have other people on this podcast to share their own experiences of their life. And honestly, I just wanted to do all of this so if anyone is able to really connect or, something really stands out to them, I just kind of wanted to do it so people don't feel alone, and to just know that no matter what you're going through, probably somebody else has been through it as well. They survived, they got through it, and then just kind of share like my own tips and tricks and, just a place to have open communication, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, as a few, I don't know how many people really know this about me. Really, it's mainly like my close circle and then people that have known me for a long time as well, like from the past. I used to be pretty religious. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I feel like a lot of people do know that religion, but just I'll kind of give it a little bit of a rundown and kind of explain everything real quick. Okay, so kind of getting into the religion, Jehovah's Witnesses, if you're not like for sure on what that religion is or who they are, it's one of the main ones that kind of like comes and knocks on doors, which a lot changed and happened during COVID, but that was kind of like how they were known before. Mormons also do that, but Jehovah's Witnesses were like, I think Mormons have kind of changed some of the things that they do now, but Jehovah's Witnesses were like the ones that weren't like riding their bikes and stuff to the door, and it was like men and women and everything. A lot of people are not big fans of witnesses, and they're not super happy about them knocking on their doors, or they feel like they're really pushy, all that jazz. And this podcast episode is in like no way like anything that has happened with me and like in the past and stuff like that with this religion. Like, I do not have any hard feelings. This is not meant to bash anyone of the religion. This is not meant to bash the actual religion or anything like that. I honestly just kind of wanted to explain my story and just something that not a lot of people know of the experience that I got, because I got disfellowshipped, which pretty much means that I kind of, in a sense, like got kicked out. I guess that's the best way to explain it. But I'm going to kind of go into a few terms that I'm going to be using a lot in this episode. And hopefully, as I'm going through the story, I just kind of want to give a little bit of an insight on my background, and also if anyone else is listening or does watch in the future, I hope that people are able to kind of connect or have a bit of a better understanding of the situation and what can happen to some people, or if they've been through it themselves. I don't know. I just feel like it is an important topic. And it's not something that I feel like a lot of people really talk about. Okay, so just to kind of go over a few of the terms, or like, I don't know, some of the things I'll be saying. So like, first of all, one thing is I normally don't say like the full like Jehovah's Witnesses. Normally I just say witnesses. Also, like what people would normally call like church, like, oh, I'm going to church. We would say like we're going to a meeting. Like we had like Thursday night meetings and Sunday morning meetings. And then like where we had them is like, a lot of people say like a church building. Jehovah's Witnesses use like the term Kingdom Hall. And so like that's their like church. And then something like one term I might use is like a pioneer. That is someone that's like is in the hall or like I don't really know. Do people use the term congregation? That's what we kind of called like everybody that went to that hall, like that met at that Kingdom Hall. So like a pioneer is someone that in the congregation that volunteers like 70 hours a month it is. And then also I'll probably say the term elder, which is like, I guess if you had to like go like look at it from like a ranking system, like of something that like is normal with like a church, is like a priest is kind of like higher up, I guess. And like in the same way that's like an elder. So it's someone that like the congregation like appoints, if you will, to be like someone who like helps organize and like look over the congregation. And like there's normally like a group of them that do this. It's not just like one person. But yeah, also as like a note too, like also this podcast episode is like, it's definitely not to push religion on anybody. I feel like a lot of people kind of look at Jehovah's Witnesses in a negative light, and this is not me trying to like say like, oh, like become one or anything like that, or be religious and like go to church. Like I'm not trying to say any of that. I'm just kind of touching on my experiences, because I know a lot of people probably have like religious trauma and so that's just kind of the point of this. It's not to make anybody like to force anybody to listen to religious teachings or like Bible scriptures or anything like that. So just as a little bit of like a forewarning and note, like that's not what I'm going to be talking about at all. Okay, so with all that aside, let's just go ahead and get into the meat of this story. This is pretty much kind of how I just lost everything. It sounds so depressing, but I'm at such a better spot now. So, yeah, just know that going into hearing this story, this is a pretty like deep story. This is very close to my heart because this is pretty much me losing a whole part of myself and losing everything that I had really known in life. And really the main reason why I'm even talking about this is actually just so y'all know how deep-seated this is, I actually said this story to my therapist, and she was actually like, you know what, you should actually talk about that like on your podcast. And I'm sure this story could resonate with a lot of people that maybe didn't even have like a religious past, but just in general like have grown up certain ways and things and have dealt with something like this. So yeah, I'm just really hoping that this can kind of help someone, or even if it just reaches one person. But anyways, so with a little bit of backstory, like if you are a Jehovah's Witness, it pretty much is your life. At least where I was from, it was, it's not just like where you go to church on Sunday and, you get to do whatever you want other times, which is not to bash anyone else. It's just like, that's just not how it works. There are different like rules set in place, in a sense of like, what you should and shouldn't do. And so, just growing up, like, I couldn't celebrate birthdays. I didn't celebrate holidays, and I had to make everyone aware of that at my school, at my job, at like, it just pretty much anywhere I went, it was like a part of my identity. And my parents didn't let me hang out with people like outside of school. I had to kind of hang out with only witnesses. This was like my life for 18 years. I pretty much and I met amazing people and I had amazing opportunities and experiences. But pretty much what I'm trying to get across is for a whole period of your life, like you're kind of
you're not told to not ask questions or anything like that, but because of the rules set in place, like that, let's see. So you're not really, they say like bad association spoils useful habits. So you're not really supposed to hang out with anyone that's like not a witness, like at least with like close relationships. You aren't supposed to date outside of your religion. That's like kind of a given with the last one. You know, you have to remain super modest in your clothing. So I remember getting in trouble, like, for what I was wearing. And I could say more about that, but, like, that's just the gist. Like, you could literally I got in trouble for listening to Fetty Wap. I got in trouble for listening to, like, I got in trouble for liking certain things on Instagram. I got in trouble for what I was wearing when I would wear just a cold shoulder shirt, or saying that my jeans were too tight, and it brings a lot of pressure, I guess, on someone, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. Whenever your entire life is being looked at under a microscope by the people close to you, by just the people that you're around, by you don't have a choice, and by your family too. Like, my parents became witnesses later in life, and not all of my siblings took to it, and I think I was really like, I think my oldest brother, he took to it a lot, but as well at first, but I think like I was kind of the last one in the family of their kids that was still a part of it, and I always looked at it as a way that I could finally get recognition from them, or acceptance, or for them to just kind of, sorry, my mic keeps on messing up, but just as a way for them to even say that they were proud of me. And I think that made me do a lot of things that I didn't even want to do. Like, and that's not saying they brainwashed me and all this jazz and stuff like that. It was all on my own will, but I felt like I had to do certain things and be a certain person for people to accept me and for my family to accept me, for, you know, I pretty much was raised not by my parents, really. I was really raised by the people of the congregation. Like, they took me to the meetings. They took me to go out in the ministry, like where we went door to door. They would let me stay at their houses, and, you know, that those were like my friends' parents. Like, they were pretty much the ones that took care of me a lot, and that's because my mom was very sick. My dad had to be the sole provider, so like he was working like all the time, and yeah, it's just a whole thing. So pretty much my whole life was dedicated to being the best witness I could be. I sent so many crazy messages to guys being like, you know what, like, I really like you, but we shouldn't date because I shouldn't date until I'm ready to get married, and all this. Like, I know that I sounded so crazy, but I thought that I was doing the right things, but you know what, it was still literally never enough. I was able to like finally get into a group of friends later in life, a little bit later into like my witness history, when I was like maybe 16 or so. I found like a group of people that I really enjoyed hanging out with, and I felt like I could be more of myself around them than I had ever felt before, and that meant a lot to me. But overall, yeah, it was just a bunch of, I don't know, I don't think I really realized that I was doing all this stuff until later on in life, which I think I kind of touch on in another podcast episode that I did with JJ. But yeah, it's just you're trying to fit into the box, and that is so tough. And eventually I kind of thought, like, I don't know what came over me, if it was maybe just like I had come back from a trip that I went to across Asia, And when I came back, I just had a different mindset, the traveling mindset. If you've ever traveled to like a different country or far away from home, I think it'll resonate. Like, you come back a different person, really. And that's not to sound like crazy or anything like that. It's just your mind is open to more than the place that you grew up in, things like that. So, yeah, long story short, anyways, I came back from a 6-week trip that I went to Thailand, Cambodia, I went to Japan, I went to South Korea, and with 3 other girls, and we're all, young girls. We went on this whole trip, and I would have to tell y'all this story in a whole nother podcast. So much happened in that, but pretty much I feel like I kind of spent a lot of that trip alone and, just doing things on my own. And I think that kind of opened my eyes to different stuff of oh, what do I actually want to do? And I always felt different. I always felt like I kind of didn't fully fit in. I just was never enough, even though I tried so hard to be the perfect witness. I just never really felt like I was enough for other people's parents, for my own parents, for the other people that were around me that were, even my age, my friends and stuff like that. And it's hard to explain why I felt that way. It's a very judgmental zone, at least in the hometown that I was in, just because it's a small place anyways. It's kind of where everybody kind of knows everybody. And I think because of that, it's just further in where people are honed in on everything that you do. And most of my jobs, other witnesses were working there too. And so it's just you never get that place where you get to just fully be you, and you're not worried about what someone's seeing or what they're looking at or what they're gonna see you do, I guess. Not that I was this crazy whole different person behind closed doors, but it's just, you don't even get to know that about yourself because you're always worried about what someone else is thinking. But kind of got off topic. Well, I guess not off topic, but off the train of thought that I was going on. But I came back kind of with my mind a little bit open, I guess. And I remember coming back and going back to my old job at McDonald's, which, oh my goodness, crazy things happened there. But I just remember going back and it just kind of felt different. And eventually I ended up it just snuck up on me, but eventually I ended up catching feelings for a guy that I was working with. And I ended up starting a relationship, and I pretty much lived a double life for 10 whole months. I guess I would have been 17, 18. I can't even remember. I think I was 18. But yeah, I was 18 because I had my birthday in South Korea. I remember that. Anyways, yeah, so I was 18 and I ended up having this whole other, I had a secret relationship. The only people that knew that we were in a relationship was, I'm sure people had suspicions at our actual job, but we kept it a secret for a long time. And then him, obviously, and then his friends. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell my friends that I had because I would have gotten in trouble. So, yeah, I think whenever that happened, the guilt of first of all, hiding such a huge part of your life, because eventually it got serious, hiding a whole piece of your life. And it's my first really big relationship, you want to talk about it. And so hiding that and lying about where I was going, what I was doing, because obviously, everybody's asking you and stuff. And, I just felt it was such a strain on the relationship and on my mental I just felt so much guilt. Because I did not feel like I was doing the right thing. I felt like I was finally choosing myself, and I didn't feel like I could do that. At that moment, I felt like choosing me was the wrong decision. And eventually I ended up, I came home from a sign language convention that I had went to for, for being a witness, and because I had learned sign language. And I came home that night. I believe it was from St. Louis, and I drove straight to his house, and I told him it's just like too much. It's too much. I broke up with him, and then I came home super late, and I told my parents what had been going on. And I thought for some reason getting breaking up with him and telling my family and telling on myself was going to relieve me of all this guilt and make me feel better. And I thought people would maybe still receive it the right way, because it was just a huge deal that I was telling them in my eyes. And it just did not go as planned. Obviously the guy was pretty heartbroken. I just put him through so much shit. That's ridiculous. And then I told my parents, and all they could focus on was that I was lying to them this whole time. And they didn't really focus on any other aspect of it other than that. And, I can't blame them for that, but, it's just I guess it just wasn't the reaction I was obviously wanting. I had lost everybody's trust, and I was in such a bad place because I'd also lost the person that I had gotten closest to this whole last year. And yeah, it was just crazy experience. My parents started giving me all these rules. I guess I can get into that in a second, because the next thing that I did was tell the elders what had been going on. So I was telling the guys that shepherd over the congregation, that look over it. I had to pretty much tell on myself what was going on. That's kind of the thing that you do if you make a mistake or sin, so they say. You should tell them and get the correct punishment or consequence, and that way you can be forgiven. And so I told them, and this whole process is pretty crazy. So pretty much I'll get into it. I'm trying to kind of go quick, so because I don't want this podcast to be forever long, so no one ever listens through it all. But if you all have any questions over any specific topic or thing that happened or the past or whatever, feel free to let me know whenever I post this, and feel free to just message me directly or on any of the posts, and just let me know personally if you're curious about anything. I'm pretty open book, so they say. But anyways, so the process of getting disfellowshipped, I met with the elders. I told them you pretty much have to tell them everything. It is very awkward. They ask you very personal questions. Did you have sex with him? How long was this going on? Are you sure it was real sex? Are you sure it wasn't just, some other things that people might say is all this jazz? And so you can imagine how an 18-year-old telling these 3 adult men about losing, this is getting so deep, but you can imagine how telling this story of me, I lost my virginity. I'm going into this whole experience that I'd never even I really never even had this deep of a discussion with my own parents. You can imagine how difficult and awkward this was, just sitting. And obviously I'm feeling I'm gonna lose this life that I had known for so long, because I know how harsh the consequence of normally this action would be. So I'm crying, bawling my eyes out, and I end up having to meet with them twice. I met with them once and kind of did a brief explanation of what was going on, and then I met with them again, and then this was whenever they really heard everything, and they had to kind of deliberate and see what the consequence was going to be. They try to read you some scriptures and say stuff that's comforting, but at the same time it's it's crazy. It's an unorthodox situation, and it is tough. It is so tough. So they had to deliberate, like, I guess is the best term for it, like after I told them everything. And so I had to sit in my car. We met at the Kingdom Hall, and I had to sit in my car, like wait, I don't remember how long it took, maybe 30 minutes or so that they were talking, and come in and hear that because it had gone on for so long, that I was going to get disfellowshipped versus maybe just like, maybe I would get my privileges taken away. So maybe I would have to stop being a pioneer. Oh yeah, like going into this, like I was a pioneer. I learned a whole nother language for this religion. Like, I mean, more than just the religion, but like I was doing volunteer work where I was going door to door, 70 hours every month of my life since I was 15. So this had been 3 years now. I was doing 70 hours every month of door to door. I learned a new language. I had moved halls out of like my parents' hall because I could drive now and I wanted to meet a new group of people, all this. But anyways, yeah, they said I was going to get disfellowshipped, which pretty much means you can still go to meetings, but you cannot talk to any witness. You cannot, they are not supposed to talk to you if you do reach out. I can no longer comment at meetings, like raise my hand and, have the mic and say something. I can't go out in service anymore, so I can't go to door. Just all that. You pretty much can't be a part of anything. You can still get the information, but you can't have any other type of contact. And yeah, it's tough because being raised as a witness, I didn't have any friends or anything that were not witnesses. So yeah, and then they said that you couldn't tell anybody either, that you're really like tell the limited amount of people that you're getting disfellowshipped before they announce it. They announce it to the whole congregation. And so yeah, it's kind of like people for like, I think it took like 2 or 3 weeks before they were able to like give that announcement at a meeting. And so at that point I really wanted to come back. You can come back if you're disfellowshipped, but it normally takes a year, and that's if you're doing everything correctly during that time. So if you're disfellowshipped, you're not banished forever, but like, first of all, you just get sent into a full spiral of depression, losing everything. So it's like the thought of you doing everything right and being okay, like, and not just like, I don't know, it's just, the odds are it's rough. But anyways, yeah, I wasn't supposed to tell anybody before it was announced, but I did. But it's just awkward because it's like, people are inviting you to do stuff, they're trying to talk to you and stuff like that, and I didn't want to make knowing that you're gonna lose all of that. It's like I took it very serious, and I didn't take it lightly, in the sense of like I just kind of kept on acting like nothing was going on. Like I was sad, and I think people could tell that, but they didn't know what was going on. I did tell the people that were like closest to me, like that lived in other areas, because they weren't gonna hear the announcement. And I also told some of the people at my own congregation that were like super, super close to me, like what was going to go on. And I was just like apologizing to them that I had lied, all this jazz. So then comes the announcement. So you're sitting in the hall, in the Kingdom Hall, and like at the end of the meeting on Thursday night, they say like some announcements, and they just like, they just like read it off like a paper. And that was like when it got announced. They're like, okay, just so you all are aware, Alexandria Harden is now disfellowshipped. And like, everybody looks at you, they kind of look back, they're like, what? And no one knows anything. And I tried walking out the door early that night because it is like crazy. It's so embarrassing. Yeah. And when I told my parents that I was getting disfellowshipped, they went completely crazy. They had like my phone surveillance on. If I was anywhere but the house, they would turn my phone service off because they thought I was like trying to meet up with the guy. And that I had a relationship with, they made me get a job at Donut Bank, which is like a local like donut and coffee like place, because they only hire girls to work in the actual shops. And yeah, I just kind of felt like a prisoner. And so when I said that I didn't want to like abide by all these rules and that it was just pretty crazy, they were just pushing me away, they were like, you either do this or you can't live here. So essentially I got kicked out of my parents' house, and I didn't know where to go, what to do. So I ended up, like getting very depressed, you could say, suicidal. And before I did anything, I reached out to my ex, and he really helped me through that. And he had me come over. He said that I could like move in with him again with like, no stipulations of us like getting back together, all of that. Granted, like with that whole situation, I ended up getting back together with him for a period of time. I also tried going to meetings again, but then COVID happened. And I think whenever COVID happened and it was like everything went to online and I didn't have to, it's awkward going to the meetings after, because I tried to come in late, because before you come in early, talk to everybody. I tried to come in late, sit in the back so no one could really see that I was there, and try to leave a couple minutes early so you didn't have to feel awkward avoiding everybody walking out. It is weird. And when everything went virtual, I was like, okay, this is kind of easier because I kind of saved that embarrassment. But then I kind of like felt less obligation. And when I felt less obligation to go, I like, oh, who would miss me, I was like, what do I want to do? Like, is this something that is this actually important to me? Or have I actually just been doing this because of getting like acknowledgement, and because I felt like I needed to do this for people to feel proud of me and to feel like I was doing the right thing. So, I guess kind of like getting into that of like how everything kind of happened. Like, I did not know I didn't know what to do, really. I spent a lot of time just working at that point. I just kind of like worked as much as I could. I was working as much overtime. I was working multiple jobs at a time. I was just trying to not think about everything and what I was going to do. I wasn't really connecting with anybody. I wasn't making any type of friends, Like I said, like it's a whole different world. I think some of my audio like cut out, so it's a completely different life. I was just kind of like put into a whole new world because I was still living like a witness, kind of like, other than really giving it my all in like meetings and stuff like that. Like I was so close-minded. I had a witness mindset, but I was in the real world, and so that didn't like make it to where I had a lot of opportunities to like really make friends. I was scared to put myself out there, and there was just so many unknowns. I was like learning so many different things. I had like never seen like a rated R movie before. Like, if that gives you any type of perspective, like there was so much that I didn't know, and so much that I was closed off to, that I was still boxing myself in mentally. And I even convinced like my ex that like the only way I could, like, I was still trying to become a witness, and like the only way that I could become a witness and us still be together was like if we got married. So we ended up getting engaged. Like, I am like 19 and he is too, like 19 years old. Like, okay, no judgment to who gets married young, but I was not in a position to be making decisions, and I didn't feel sure in any decision that I was making. In reality, that was really the kicker, and I was forcing him to make a decision that was going to affect his life forever, based on a decision that I wasn't even sure of. So, we ended up cutting things off, and I was able to move back in with my family, and I really tried to avoid them for a long time, even moving back in with them, because any type of interaction with them they would try to bring up witness stuff again, and it was like there's so many toxic things that happened at that point with them and stuff, and so it was a lot. Pretty much, I guess what I'm trying to get through is it was like the first time in my life where I literally felt completely lost. I had no freaking clue what I was doing with my life, what I was going to do with my life. And honestly, I still felt really alone because I didn't have that community that I had before, where it was like, even if it wasn't the best, at least I still had some people around me. I'm not saying that is good, but it was just like, this was really the time where I was very, very alone. And I started thinking too, like, whenever I broke up with my ex and stuff like that, like, I didn't know if in my head, I was kind of thinking like, you know what, I'm going to immediately try to be a witness again now. And I thought about it really hard, and I almost did. I reached out to an elder about it even, but I literally was like, am I just trying to go back? Why am I trying to go back? Because I felt so judged too. I was like, okay, am I going back because of God, or am I going back because I just crave that community again and to have my old friends back? And then I thought, is that enough? And is it going to be different when I come back? Are people going to view me completely weird? Because at this point, their imagination has probably gone wild about why I got disfellowshipped. And I'm like, I felt judged in the first place. I felt like I couldn't truly be who I wanted to be. So, like, maybe I should just figure out who I want to be before I make any of these decisions. And I guess that is where I am now. Now, like, I'm just gonna kind of try to wrap this whole episode up, I guess. But I guess what I want to get out is that now I'm at a spot. I am obviously, well, I don't know if it's, I think it's pretty obvious, but I did not go back. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I did not go back to my ex again. I kept on living, having different experiences. I'm now, like, having other relationships, and I have been able to have groups of friends. Not all the friendships lasted, and that's okay. I have been growing tremendously. I'm going to therapy. I've made a lot of choices in life that I never thought that I was gonna choose, because I thought I was always gonna choose somebody else over me. I finally went through that coding boot camp. I got into the tech industry, where I'm hoping to have, financial freedom eventually by having properties. And I went in with JJ on the clothing brand. We have an amazing relationship that I would have never ever had if I wouldn't have made the decisions that I made in the past, even when I made the decisions to continue to go on when I felt like there was nothing else for me. And I just hope that but I hope that stands out to other people. Gosh, goodness, sorry. It still chokes me up, this whole experience, because it was just such a huge part of my life. But I never thought that I would get to the point that I am now, where I'm happy. Gosh, sorry. I know it's probably so annoying listening to people talking and crying and stuff. So it's just, I never thought that I would get to a point again in life where I felt happy. I don't feel fully at peace with everything yet, but I'm working towards it, in the sense of like, I'm still kind of searching for something to bring me a type of fulfillment that being a part of, like being a Jehovah's Witness, gave me. But yeah, I have so many great things going on in life, and I'm repairing my relationship with my family, and I don't always think what somebody else is going to think whenever I do something anymore. I have decided to just make a decision and follow through, and I have become way more open-minded about people and what happens in life, and what life has to offer whenever you don't box yourself in. And it was a journey getting here. Like everything was not roses. Maybe it was just the thorns pretty much for a minute. But I guess my advice is, if you've ever been through a traumatic experience, maybe similar, just where it was life-changing, I guess, and life-changing where you thought it was negative, I guess my advice is to take a second, accept the feelings that come through, and realize that I'm not one of those people that believes like every single thing happens for a reason. Because I don't want to believe that bad things happen because they needed to happen. But my thing is that you can make any situation something beautiful in the end. And I think that is like the best advice. Do what you feel like is right and what you feel like is best for you. And just start living life, I guess I just started saying yes to stuff, and that's kind of how I got to where I am, where I'm at now. And that doesn't mean yes to everything, but it was just really being more open to the doors that were opening, and going through the roller coaster. Sorry, I don't know why an airplane decided to go through right now. I'm sure you can hear it through this mic, but anyways, kind of ruined the moment. But I guess try to channel any type of resentment, anger, that 'cause I could still be angry at the situation that happened or whatever. My parents, I don't know, my friends for maybe not reaching out. A lot of them, some of them have, but my old friends that were witnesses for not reaching out, maybe, I don't know. But that's not going to get you anywhere, to continue to be upset over the same situation or feeling like it's unfair. Move on and create something better. I would never be here where I am right now if this experience had not happened to me. If I had not lost a whole part of me, if I had not lost my life, really. If I had not lost my old life, I would not be where I'm at now. And the possibilities are still endless. I mean, nobody is guaranteed tomorrow, but every day I am trying to live life in a life that will make me happy, and that I'm excited to wake up the next day, and that I want to share it with others. So yeah, I'm not just going to keep on saying the same things, I guess, but this whole experience was definitely life-changing, and it was crazy. And if y'all have any other questions, feel free to let me know, or if you want a deeper dive on any aspect, I'm fine doing any more episodes on this. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to give everybody a deeper insight into my old life and how I got here, and the different struggles and trauma, just in case someone else might be able to relate. So I hope that you all enjoyed this episode, and sorry if the audio was kind of messing up. My mic was going in and out, so hopefully everything is clear enough.
But thank you all for listening and being a part of this journey and reaching out to me and talking. And it has been amazing so far having this podcast. And yes, love y'all and appreciate y'all. And I'll talk to you in a couple weeks.